Hello. It seems like it has been a long time. I hope you had a good reading week. I was in Alberta for reading week and it was cold, very, very cold. But let's have a look at what we are doing in our class now. Just let me, oh, I need to share my screen. My apologies. Let me go back to that. There we go. Looking at all the buttons. Aha, this is one. Share. All right, look at that. We are already at week 8. And we only have to go down to, whoops, let me close those off. I'm still working on tweaking them as we go along. So we get down to final exam week at week 16, and we don't have a final exam in this class. Yay! It gives you some extra time for studying the other things that you'll need to be doing. So week 8 and week 9, they are all about finishing off our people skills portfolio. This week, it's primarily focused on conflict resolution, how to approach it. And before you can know how to approach it, you have to understand it. So we're going to look at some of the things to do with how to deal with conflict. There's 2 assignments, assignment 3, assignment 4. They're also going to be part of your people skills portfolios. I've been working on giving feedback on the ones that were already done, and you can expect to see things coming into your mailbox or seeing responses back to those this week. So that'll be good. So the turn-in buttons here are, of course, for the Sunday at midnight, but I'm not marking these ones. I will mark them when they come as part of the portfolio. You turn them in to get some feedback. And so I can check off my little list that, oh, good, you're on track and you're doing well. But I can give you some feedback that gives you an opportunity to make any changes or improvements before you finally submit. So things to look at. Before reading week, we had the emotional intelligence and the dysfunctional to cohesive teams, assignments 1 and 2. So here's some student examples. I'm not saying these ones are perfect, but they might help guide your thinking. I don't know about you, but for myself, if I see an example, then I'm like, oh, okay, something along those lines. And that's what I do. So that hopefully is helpful. Next week, we won't have any of these kind of assignments. Next week is all about quiz based on the last 4 weeks and submitting the final people skills portfolio. So for this one, we have the 5 spheres of conflict. This resource here will help you understand more about the main 4: intrapersonal, interpersonal, intragroup, and intergroup. They give us a brief description of each kind. Many of these words you've probably already heard. Maybe you're very familiar with a lot of the concepts. Even if so, fantastic. And this little box in pink, I thought was an interesting story that they added in. So I recommend you read it. It's interesting. And then there's a practice question at the end. Now, before reading week, there was a big slideshow, or at least parts of big slideshow. So I've been modifying and making smaller ones, smaller than the original 100 and whatever slides, because that's crazy. So I'm targeting each of the specific areas. When we do the quiz next week, you can do it like an open book quiz. You're going to want to be familiar with the slideshows to know where to find the information. So for this one, for the 5 spheres, we have our little picture. There's very little written on each particular slide. It just highlights the main ideas. So these are things that make conflict worse: breach of trust, miscommunication, unclear roles and expectations, lack of conflict resolution skills, that's a big one, and blaming. That never helps. So that first resource I shared with you showed these 4, or gave some more details about these 4. The 5th one is systemic. It's conflict with the organization setup itself. And then I recommend you go through these. the conflict escalation starts here and progresses down to changing culture. You'll see more about that. And then each of the next few slides go into bigger detail about problem solving. That's that first stage. It deals with solving the problem. The problem is the behavior, not the person. And sometimes that's the biggest trigger for conflict, is it becomes about the person when it really should be about the behavior. And you'll see that carry on that way. Hopefully that makes perfect sense. And then we get down to two major sources: miscommunication and disagreement about how you're going to work that out. So we have the intention, action, effect cycle. The intention is the reason why I do what I do in my head. The action is what I do based on what I'm thinking. And the effect is the effect or impact that my action has. Now, the rub. I know my intentions. Others may make assumptions about my intentions. They might be right, they might not be. And so if there's a negative assumption, then we're going to have a negative effect or impact. Each of us is responsible to ask to clarify the intention and do an assumption check. Describe the action, ask the other person about their intention, listen to their response, and describe the effect. Because maybe their intention and the action they thought would support that intention are having an effect that they had not planned on. So that's why you need to listen and ask. We start with questions. Need to figure out what is the issue? What do you think is going to solve it? What does the other person think is going to solve it? And really with interests, what motivates me to have this particular position? And if that seems a little vague, no problem. We have more about that. So if somebody takes a position, it really focuses on the differences, where interests, you're going to focus on shared goals. That's finding that common ground. If you have ever listened to any Brene Brown, that's a lot of what this is about. The interest check, ways to get at interests, be curious. What do you hope will happen if we do it this way? Those sorts of things. These are the top 10. This is where we can find common ground: fairness, respect, safety, efficiency, happiness, justice, learning, professionalism, reputation, and being responsible. What we see for positions versus interests is like an iceberg. We can see what position somebody is taking it on something, but this is why we need to be curious and ask questions. We need to figure out, why did that top of the iceberg come up? This is a much bigger piece to the puzzle. And these are those magic skills for resolution. Validating. I'm going to validate the other person's emotional response. To not do that, that's gaslighting. We need to be curious, make fewer statements, and ask more questions. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Closed-ended questions, you'll get an answer, but it might not lead to the most in-depth understanding. You want people to tell you more. The more they tell you, the more you'll learn, and the more understanding of the interests that you'll have. So, best method for asking questions, if you want more information, tell me more about it. Ask open-ended questions. Paraphrasing. Let's make sure that you understand what you're hearing, because maybe there's a communication discord and you really want to have clear communication. Connect first, direct second. How is that related to emotional intelligence? Think back to before reading week. Because we have the heart and the teeth. Because if you understand how I feel about something, then we can move on. Even if we agree to disagree, you need to each understand how the other one feels. It's really important that you pay attention to body language. We say a lot without ever saying a word. And you're a participant. It's not us versus them. It's not the other. And everybody is vulnerable. That's the hardest thing. That's the hardest part, I think, of being human, is having that feeling of vulnerability in an unsafe or untrustworthy environment. We need to have that trust and safety before we can ever go forward on resolving a conflict. If trust or safety are lost, then the conflict will continue. ABCD, analyze the conflict, build understanding. That's that asking questions, understanding the other person's interests and perspective. Create solutions together. And then sometimes it's that defining of details. What is that answer going to look like? Analyze. Prepare yourself to. Acknowledge, listen, seek. There are two people, one event, but two different perspectives, two sides to the same coin, as it were. This is how we build understanding. State, find, invite, share. What is the positive purpose of the conversation that you're having? Remember, two people. It's going to be two different perspectives. So this is how we create our solutions. And gee, can we say it one more time? Two people, two perspectives, two parts to the puzzle. And defining the details. That's when we wrap it up. It's like the bow. That takes care of, see, I'm trying to get my thing to not be, there we go. So in your assignment for today, considering these 5 spheres of conflict, and you can look back at that slideshow anytime you want, of course. We have a scenario. In this situation, then we have 5 questions. What? Look at that. Only 2 questions. Well, there you go. 2 questions today for using 5, excuse me, 5 spheres of conflict, and give me a detailed answer. Okay. That's Monday. Tuesday has the drama triangle and the empowerment dynamic. Both of them are triangles. This is a video that helps explain the drama triangle and how to go from drama triangle to the empowerment dynamic. Sometimes in different resources, I'm coming across similar words for the same idea. Like sometimes the hero is called the rescuer, or sometimes a villain is also called a controller or a persecutor. It depends on which resource you're looking at. But essentially, they're still all dealing with that same drama triangle. And then there's a little slideshow that goes along with that and the assignment. So I think the video will be very helpful, but this kind of sums up the key parts to that. So I've added in some of the other different words, the synonyms that different resources are using. Hopefully that helps minimize any confusion. And we all go in and out of all 3 of those roles all the time. So we talk more about the victim role. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What is their behavior? And then goes villain role. Then we talk thinking, feeling, behaving. There's a pattern. And we carry on down to empowerment dynamic. You'll notice the triangle is facing the other way now. That's a visual clue as well, that the whole situation has been reversed. So the creator in the previous drama thing would be the victim. And when we're changing from one to the other, from the drama to the empowerment, the victim changes into the creator in the new scenario. Again, thoughts, feelings, behavior to help explain those. And then we have that assignment. So we have the drama triangle versus the empowerment dynamic, and I've put them straight across from each other to hopefully increase clarity there too. Each of these questions needs to be answered in full sentences in 250 words or more, or about 200 words or more. And yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 questions for that one. So in total, really 6 questions for this week at about 250 words per question. After you've gone through the video and slideshows, and maybe this video. If you'd like some feedback before we submit it for marks at the end of next week, by all means, please do so. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say for today. I'll be here. If you have any questions, pop on. Thanks. And that wraps us up for now.